This is the Round Table, a talk show brought to you by the Glastonbury Goddess Conference. In this circle, the priestesses of the ceremonial circle, the weavers of our annual gathering, talk about pivotal topics about our community, spirituality, and goddess. Welcome everyone, welcome Goddess community to the first episode of the Roundtable. I'm delighted to have a panel of 5 here today with me. But before we get into that, I would like to thank all the people following us on Facebook Live today, and also all the people who are following us through the episodes on YouTube. And if you're listening to this right now, thank you for following us through the podcast. Before we move to the panel we have here today and to the really precious topic about the many ladies of Avalon, I would love to introduce the Goddess Conference, which is the event, the community, and the joyful gathering of goddess-loving people that powers this roundtable. So let me introduce you to the Goddess Conference. Join us this year for the 29th Glastonbury Goddess Conference, a joyful gathering of goddess-loving people, a 6 days in-person event in Glastonbury, Avalon, running from Tuesday 30th July to Sunday 4th August 2024, with the fringe events starting from Sunday 28th July. This year the theme is the Goddess of Healing. It's our maiden year, the first year of a new 5-year cycle. International presenters, transformative workshops and experiences, deep ceremonies on the sacred land of Avalon, community, art, fun, and love for Goddess. Let your healing journey begin this year. Join us for the Glastonbury Goddess Conference, Goddess of Healing. There are so many options to participate: full conference tickets, weekend tickets, day tickets. Find what suits you best and get your ticket now at goddessconference.com. So welcome back to our wonderful panel. I'm really proud and happy to introduce today. So the ceremonial circle of the Glastonbury Goddess Conference. Here at my right or left, it depends, Katinka Sutens.
Hello.
To my far left, Amanda Baker.
Hi, hello.
And in the down row here, Mariam Brigantia.
Hi.
Caroline Stevens.
Hi.
And Stephanie Allison Schudel.
Hello.
So we have a very juicy topic today, and that we know many people will connect to, which is called the Many Ladies of Avalon. Of course, it's all about the goddess in Avalon, and we have 2 questions to answer with this episode. The first one is, who decides the authenticity of the many forms and layers of goddess in Avalon and the acceptable forms of worship that follows? But also, how can we keep the Avalon story plural, diverse, and open to the interpretation of many? These are the questions, and we have a starting point.
Excellent questions.
Yes.
Yes. So I will pass the mic to Amanda, starting this conversation today.
Oh, thank you, Andrea. Well, this is my first roundtable, so I'm very pleased to be with you all. And I would say, in answer to the first question, is that authenticity comes from the seeker. And it is the seeker who determines whether or not it's authentic to them, to their heart, to their soul, to their being. And that is why I would say there's many ladies of Avalon. As there are many faces of each of us, there are many aspects of Goddess. We're all part of the one. So my entry into Avalon was to begin the Avalon training, and became eventually, after 3 years, a priestess of Avalon. And a priestess of Rhiannon, priestess of the goddess, priestess of Mamusian, in my Manchester place of where I live. I found my place within that training within that place. And it was authentic to me because I was the seeker, I was the explorer. I went through the layers that that particular seeking or particular spirituality takes you in your own personal development and growth.
I love your wisdom, Amanda. It's so great to have you with us. It's so good. It feels like a conference group, really.
Also, I have to ask, Amanda, when you joined, you said you joined. I love the thing you said about a seeker, and there's a seeker who finds maybe the facet or the aspect of the lady, of the goddess that manifests to them. My question is, was what you found in Glastonbury, in Avalon, what you expected, or did it change for you? And is it still something, does that image that you had at the very beginning of your training, did that image evolve for you? Is it different? Is it any different for you today than it was back then?
Well, I didn't have any expectations. I had I had a pull, and also a pull against, because I was also coming up against my own fears. So I had a big draw to be in Avalon, but I also had to examine my fear places and what was wanting to stop me from going. So I didn't know what to expect, and I didn't expect anything. I was exploring and I was seeking, so therefore each step was going to take me into a new place, and I didn't know what that was going to be until I got there. And there was something exciting about that, and also fearful about that. Because of course, as we know, we step upon this path. It is a path of devotion, but it's also a path of healing. And that path of healing is that spiral path, and we really don't know what is around the corner. We are seeking and we are devoted, or becoming devoted. So no, I didn't have an expectation. Is it different now to what it was then? Yes, of course, it's different, because I have a wealth of experience now. But I am still experiencing, and I am still seeking, and I am still learning.
So there is this thing about Avalon, about the lady of Avalon. We say the many ladies of Avalon.
I think that's
yeah.
I think, well, you're breaking up, I think. But yeah, I think that is the ever changing. I think we touched on that in the other roundtables as well, that there is a one of the things that is so goddess is that it is ever changing, and so I think that is a good thing to do, and to keep seeking. I think is the thing to do. I always say the best way to go deeper and deeper is to doubt, and to ask questions, and to not just take on what a teacher says, as a truth. I think it is really about finding your own way. And for me, I came to Avalon, to Glastonbury, as a priestess of Bridget, and I wasn't a priestess of Avalon. And it is really much later. I lived here about 4 years or so. And when I walked the land, I became curious, like, okay, how do other people experience this deity of this land? Because for me, she was Bridget, and I heard other people speak about other names, other forms, and I was just curious about how that would be. So for me, actually, I really felt her as Bridget. For me, she's always been Bridget. And the thing with this is that the lady of Avalon is a title, it's not a name. And I think that is actually what opens up this whole everybody can give her the name that they feel. And for me, she's actually both Bridget and she's also 𝗔𝗓𝗡𝗨. They kind of intermingle sometimes. Not intermingle, but they, in some situations, I can feel the lady as 𝗔𝗓𝗡𝗨, and in other situations, I feel her as Bridget or Brigantia. So even in myself, it changes every now and again through in circumstances, and I think that is very much what goddess is, you know. So yeah.
For me, it was when I was thinking about the questions that you sent us, Andrea. For me, I was asking myself, how would I describe Avalon? You know, to even get to that part of who is Lady of Avalon for me, is I had to ask myself the question, what is Avalon for me first? And for me, you know, Avalon can be everywhere. Of course, it is associated with Glastonbury, of course, and a lot of myth and legend around that. Living in Switzerland is when I'm out on the land, when I'm near her lakes and streams, where I feel Avalon from. Especially Avalon for me is a place like an anchor inside that is a place of remembering, a place where you can completely heal, where you can dive deep, where you are held, where you can find yourself in all your many faces and archetypes and everything that we have, because we are so much, and actually diving into Avalon within, for me was the key of finding who for me is the Lady of Avalon, is finding that goddess that I particularly love to work with. And it's also finding myself as a lady of my own realm. So for me, it is the Lady of Avalon is also becoming the queen of your own realm and looking deep inside. So I see Avalon also as this space of the sacred space of remembering and finding the lady with her many, many names and many, many forms and shapes and colors, and of what your heart calls to. So that was my tapping into who would I see as the Lady of Avalon.
I think that's really interesting, Stephanie, because that speaks into this element of sovereignty and the sovereign goddess, which is very much a terminology, but it was not just a title, it was a real understanding that united different people in the Proto-Celtic and Celtic times. And so for me, this question that we're looking into today is very interesting if you're looking historically here in Avalon, which is limited because it's written records really, or sometimes statues or something like that, that we find from relatively recent. I mean, Roman times are relatively recent. So, but the furthest back you can kind of look, what you can on the one hand see is that it was most likely Bridget here as goddess of the land in one of her forms. And that's hidden in the names of places and the rivers and the fact that it's a beacon hill, the Tor, all that. There's some wonderful research by, for example, Uri Lee, who speaks at the conference. He's written a great little booklet about this. But also what you saw, on the other hand, was that the people who lived here had their own goddesses or deities, gods as well. And so for them, whoever that goddess was, must have been the Lady of Avalon for them, if that term, that title existed in that time, which I doubt. But, you know, that comes in really with the Mist of Avalon novel. So when you're looking at this as a sort of like a template that we sit on in the subtle field, this resonant collective, that creates a spaciousness around different goddesses. And so when I first came to Avalon and trained, because I lived in Cornwall, I was very much connected to the goddesses of 𝘎𝑓 and to basically Wiccan deities. What I found interesting at the time was that there appeared to be a seasonal wheel where there were different goddesses and not one per segment of the wheel, more than one, who were the sovereign goddess of Avalon in that season. And that's a concept that Marion and I have carried on in the Temple of Avalon, which is very much that it is there is a definition, there is a form, but it is also open to other forms. And for me personally, that's where it's at. Of course, I am dedicated to Rhiannon, and for me, she is very much a Celtic sovereign goddess. She was recognized like that across large areas of European lands, as Bridget was, as some of the other deities were, particularly in her form as Epona, because the two were, of course, or became linked. So the whole thing, how it exactly was historically, we don't know. How it is for each of us individually, already we're speaking into how different that is and how beautiful to have that diversity. So for me, living here as a priestess of Avalon, as a priestess of Rhiannon, I want to hold the spaciousness in my heart, to find expression and connection in the similarities with people who have a different Lady of Avalon, perhaps. And I am not interested in it becoming this thing of it is the one God, because that monotheism kind of tone is very patriarchal for me and is a problem, because you immediately create a hierarchy of lesser than and higher than. Yeah. So
Religion.
that's where I'm at with the Ladies of Avalon. If you're looking at the mythologies of Arthur and the women here who are named, you know, the Morgans or the sisters or Morgan Le Fay, this is a later, for me, this is a later form, and it still echoes into this almost seasonality or this shifting through the mist, that she can have many different forms and many different names, and I like that a lot.
Caroline, you're silent today.
No, I was not.
I want to hear from you as well.
I was nodding away. I think Katinka, was it yourself that mentioned about the Lady of the Land and in history? So in the there are beliefs that in the past the tribal leader would marry the land, and I think that has always resonated with me. It has always very much resonated with me. So I'm personally don't like to put things into boxes. I don't like to because that is to limit something so much. And so the conversation that we're having here is very much around diversity, and how I am in relationship with Bridget is going to be very similar to how Marion is in relation to Bridget, but she will also resonate differently to me. There will be massive similarities, but there will be around the edges, it will be a blurring, and there will be differences, and that is beautiful, and that is as it should be. For me personally, and I know that is how it resonates with you as well, Marion. So for the lady in Avalon, the Lady of Avalon is going to be, I think, as going back to what you said, Amanda, she is for the seeker, unique, a completely unique experience, a unique relationship, a unique dialogue, and to limit that relationship by trying to bring her back within some boundaries or some box is ruining the whole experience, is taking away goddess in effect for me, that beautiful expansion of who is she to me. And that's, as you said, Amanda, that going into something without any opinion, being open to just who is she going to be for me, rather than being told who she is. I need to find that out personally. I want to find that out for myself. I want to find out who she is for me, what is her voice going to sound like, what might she look like in my mind's eye. I love goddess art, for example. I absolutely love it. And it helps to spark my curiosity and my imagination, but she isn't the art for me either. That's just one of her many faces. And so I love the term Lady of Avalon because it's a title. And I love to work with titles. She's the Lady of the Waters. She's the Lady of the Land, the Lady of the Trees, Lady of Sanctuary. And by having that title, she is many things to many people.
It's interesting you say that, because when you said she's Lady of the Sanctuary, I immediately thought of Nematona. And I remember, for instance, when we in 22 we did Sovereign Goddess of Avalon, and we kind of worked with the different faces of the goddess in Avalon, and what she carries and what she brings and what she what her gifts are to the people who come to Avalon. And I think that is also something, and I love that you started off with that, Amanda, because I don't really use the word seeker so much, really, but I'm more pilgrim, for instance, I use. But it is really people come to receive and to be in devotion to something. And sometimes they don't. I've got a lot of people coming in my tours who are called to Avalon, but have no idea exactly what they are called to. And then if I walk the land with them for 2 or 3 days or so, they start to have a feeling of it. And that is sometimes like, so they are looking for, as you say, Caroline, the Lady of the Waters. Some people really connect to the waters of the Chalice Well and the White Spring. Some people really connect to the Lady of the Orchards, and I had the group last week, and one woman was like, she was in the orchard, and she was like, okay, that's it. Here I find Goddess. So yeah, I think that's nice that you say that the lady has different aspects, and also what Stephanie said, the inner landscape.
I think sorry, Marianne, I think she meets you where you are.
Mm.
So she's different each time, in a way. For me, how I am, where I am, where I'm at. She meets me in that place, and she brings me the face I need to see, or to assist me in whatever way. So it changes. She changes.
Yeah.
Well, we are treading on very thin land, though, because many of us come from lands where history is rich, where we do have a deep cultural, let's say, artifacts, remains, whatever, many things that historically connect us to specific goddesses. I come from Italy, and we have rich history around every single corner, basically. So it's very much like that. But I find it really curious, and that's where this topic comes from, that so many people from all over the world feel connected to a place that is, yes, it's Glastonbury, it's a land of, but could also not be the land of Glastonbury. That it's a metaphysic space, let's say, it's a liminal space between worlds, and that's why we are treading on very thin land, because specifically for Avalon, it becomes really tricky to define who the Lady of Avalon is. And going back to the topic, you're, as always, very kind, and I need to be a bit disruptive here. But there are instances, and I know you've seen that happen, where somebody's perception of the Lady of Avalon, I wouldn't say it got crushed in the process, but maybe it was not validated, was not embraced by the community. And the question is, should the Lady of Avalon be something that takes a form and in a way informs a cult or a following, a way of worship, or should it be the Avalon experience that we all experienced at some point, the call of Avalon that creates this seeker in us, and this place for all of us to experience her, Goddess, there in different ways?
Okay, I'd like to come in there, because there's a lot in that. I'd like to say 3 things, I think. One is that Avalon of the mind, of the heart, is different to Avalon, Glastonbury in the world as a place, and both have this magnetism, and it is part of our remembering, part of the remembering of a broken heritage, which is, I think, what we talked about in the first roundtable. Yeah. And how that expresses for different people can really resonate in all places. I see this all the time, just in Europe where I travel, but it is actually worldwide, particularly for Westerners, or people of European origin. And I think this is something to do with whatever that is, some karmic weaving of the souls. I don't know what it is, but it is something that ignites something, the seeker, that ignites a particular recognition, a sense of belonging, of homecoming, which also is what draws many people to the physical Avalon, Glastonbury, where there is something in the land here. I mean, there's a lot that goes on. People call it the heart chakra of the world. I'm not sure that is what I personally feel about this place at all, really. But it is a PowerPoint in the land, without a doubt. Yeah, there are many other PowerPoints in the land. Why this mythology? So part of it is mythology, and part of it is the interpretation of mythology in a book that was a bestseller, or a movie that people love, because it's this wonderful between the worlds, before the invaders took over, and what the golden past age might have been like, which is an illusion, of course. The golden age is right now, what we make of it. But so all of that is woven within the fabric of Avalon and the magnetism of Avalon. So that was the first thing. And then the other thing that you were wanting us to talk about is about how it is very tricky, because if you live here and you are in a devotional relationship with Goddess here, who for you is the Lady of Avalon, and then particularly if you teach as well, if you teach a training here centered on that particular deity, to not get a little bit blinkered to the possibility of other forms is completely understandable. And it is not necessarily done from a place of exclusion, but I can really see how it could come across like that. I think this place that we're speaking into here, where we're really understanding, or beginning to understand in our own journeys, what Avalon actually is, because Avalon and Glastonbury, though they geographically are the same thing, they are actually really not the same thing. And so Avalon, as Stephanie was saying earlier, is actually, you can find Avalon everywhere, anywhere, really. And many people do, and find their particular places of resonance, of PowerPoints, of remembering in their own lands, in their own sacred places. And I think Avalon, Glastonbury is a wonderful place where memory is reignited or rewoven, respun into something. And that is not one thread. That is many. You can't weave something from one thread. That is just one thread. You need more than one thread to weave. So
Well, it's very difficult today for me to ask questions, because I have a deep connection to that. So I'm a bit of playing a character here to stress out some points that might not be my personal experience with Avalon. I have a heart connection that I feel all of us have. But at some point I questioned myself about that diversity, because I wondered many times, what if there are other people who perceive this differently? And if it doesn't look like, a silky, dressed, flowy, white hair goddess, why if it's different for them? And should it be bound to an aspect we developed so much as a collective consciousness, or should it be more about the land? Because for me, it's also about the land. So it's about, Bushikum, the smell of that. It's about many things. And so it's a very tricky thing to define, I guess. Marion, sorry, I interrupted you. What were you saying?
No, I was just thinking, going on, well, from what you said and what Katinka said, is that on an entry point, a lot of people need certain kind of certainty. As a teacher, is that what I find is that, they want to have a truth that they can work with. And I think it is a responsibility. I see it as my responsibility as a teacher, that can you give that kind of structure, you give that kind of, I very stay away from the word truth, but I give structure and give the stories and the mythology, in my case from Bridget. But the more people develop in their priestess self, the more it is important for us as teachers to say, and this is not, you have to find your own unique way. And I think that's the same with the Lady of Avalon. It's like, it's like, yes, in the beginning, it's like, it's good to have like structure and go with the myth and go with the stories and create a community. And I've done that with the Clan of Bridget as well. You create also a community that people belong to and feel safe in. But then it's also the next step is when people are further in their development as priestesses, to make very clear that this is not as I tell it. It's not how I see Bridget. That is important, and that's what Caroline just referred to. It's not how I see her; it's how you see her. And I think that is the thing. It's like, and in that freedom of your unique relationship with a certain goddess that is named, I think that is so important that you if you can still find each other in the freedom without having to see it in a certain way, or it has to be a certain, I don't know, structure. Actually, the more you dive deep into the presence of goddess, the more you realize there is no structure. There is no certainty. There is no truth. It's actually it is wide open.
Well, that's the angle of today, Marion. I have to say that's exactly the point where we needed to get. So thank you very much for that.
Okay,
let me hear what Stephanie and Amanda and Caroline feel about this.
I think when I look at the priestess school here in Switzerland, when I teach about Verena, of course I go into mythology, but I think for me as a teacher is to deliver tools that people can use, but the priestess path is so unique. And I've noticed that throughout teaching the Verena priestess school, that I had women who felt her more as a mountain goddess, more as a lady of the lake, and more, others as the earth, because she has different mythologies where she also has these different forms. And I think a priestess path is so unique to everybody that they have to find their own connection to goddess. And I see that as my responsibility as a teacher to hold that space and to be open, that everybody can find their own personal connection to the goddess, because that is what priestessing is about, that every priestess finds their unique gifts, finds their way of how they want to serve in the world. And they can only do that if they find their authentic connection or relationship with goddess in how they see it and how they feel it. And that's why I think it's also, for me, a huge responsibility to hold that place and really also say that to my students always, it's your path. I can give you tools, but what you make out of your path and your relationship is completely up to you. And to really hold that and honor it. And also, I'm so proud of every woman that comes into my teachings, and also the men who did the men's circle in Switzerland, is how they felt their connection. I'm so proud, and it was so beautiful to see how all these relationships just flourish and bloomed. And I think that's really important in a priestess school, to just keep that open, because it's so individual. Every path is such an individual gift. So yeah.
As you were speaking then, Stephanie, I was having these kind of links between the priestess path and music. So the structure in music, as you actually have a really limited range in which to play with, don't you? Really, there's a scale, there's only a set number of musical notes, and yes, we've got different scales of those musical notes, but it's still the same tone in different places in the pitch. But look at the wealth. Look at the beauty, the diversity of music.
Totally.
And that's I think that is where we are, where we here are kind of in resonance, really. All of our songs, all of the notes that maybe we're holding are different, but we are weaving together a beautiful piece of music. And that's the goddess path and the priestess path. It's the structure, the scale is the structure, but look at the wealth that can come out of that.
Yes.
I love that. That's beautiful.
That is very specific, and I need to bring you a bit. Start from there. So for this beautiful music, and weave in what Mariam brought us to. So the community element. This is very important. All of us entered the community, entered the training, entered something that was their access point to the Lady of Avalon. So let's be specific with Avalon now. All of us entered Avalon and the mythology of Avalon, the lore of Avalon, through a training, through books. We have a fantastic
Goddess conference.
Yeah, through the Goddess Conference. And at the Goddess Conference this year, we have 𝘕𝗓 𝗠𝗓𝘓 as well, that published a very famous book, which is Avalon Within, which offers a completely different, again, mythology and access point to Avalon, which is great. So what I liked about Marion, and which is pivotal, I guess, it's that as a teacher and as a community, you need a foundation, so something where to start from. The tricky part is where your community develops and it becomes plural. So the question today was, how can we keep that diverse? And being specific about Avalon, I would love to ask you, to the roundtable here, what is specifically, if it's specific, the lady of Avalon for you? So is it Morgana? Is it Vivian? Does she have a flowy purple robe? Does she come with horns? Does she come singing or dancing? Is she naked? Is she in voluptuous dresses? You tell me. Let's have a round of it.
You can't pin her down to one thing.
guess.
All of those. All of those.
She is something now in this second and something else in another.
Completely different.
Shapeshifter.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I
Well,
think-
for me, she is Brigantia, Bridget Brigantia.
I think what you spoke about the community and you know, what does that mean? Amanda, you did something really remarkable by taking Avalon into Manchester and really creating community. I mean, really community outside of the inner circle of priestess trainings or something like that.
Well, it was something I wanted just to bring into the conversation, but then we became very specific on Avalon again, Andrea. But what I wanted to say about the Manchester experience was that my priestess training was in Avalon, and my learning and my seeking that took me there was the Morgan sisters, actually. They came to me. They came to me in America and told me to do my priestess training, and I didn't even know who they were. So I happened to have Kathy Jones's book, Priestess of Avalon, and I looked in there and realised that they were the Morgan sisters, and they had come and told me to work with women in circle and go to Avalon. So it's not specific to.
It is fantastically specific, Amanda. That is really specific.
It is specific, but you know, the space is spacious. There is no place. It is the place wherever you are. There is. I don't have to be in Avalon. I was in Manchester on the streets, and she said, you know, my temple is no walls. It doesn't have any walls. You're a priestess in action. Walk the streets.
Absolutely.
Was that Mamusium? Was it the Lady of Avalon? What aspect of goddess is that? You know? Did she have different aspects? Yes, she did. She was fierce. The Lady of Avalon, is she fierce? Or maybe she is to some. To me, she wasn't fierce. She was strong, bold, but not fierce. Or was she fierce on the streets of Manchester? I called her Mamusium. She's goddess.
I love this, Amanda. And this reinforces the point I think Katinka was making previously. There is a fine line where and that's why I mentioned Avalon as a very thin land, because it's a between worlds. And I feel that all of us, even if we were, and also people following us today, they come in maybe from different goddesses, but then there is that shapeshifter, Stephanie and Caroline, shapeshifter aspect that you mentioned. It all comes to us when we look into a mirror. We find ourselves in the mirror, and it's Brigantia, but at the same time, she's the Lady of Avalon. So it becomes, again, it is a plural story. You are telling me very plural stories today, and your call, Amanda, it's fantastic, and Marion has a totally different story. And though I feel we can weave a similar thread here around all of us. Katinka, to you.
Well, I really want to defer to Marion, because there's something that she holds, which I'm not sure many people get to see really, maybe in the Goddess Conference, which is this: she is the bridge between the Lady of Avalon as Bridget historically and here in the present now, which is recognized by many people who actually live here. But also she has this amazing capacity to be very open and dedicated to many forms of goddess who, when you live here, are the Lady of Avalon for you. If you live in a different country, the goddess of your heart. If you have connection, soul connection, physical connection, training connection to Avalon, for me, this is how it is for me. But I really want to hear from Marion on this, because she holds a particular place in this discussion.
Oh, am I?
Yes, and you're poetic about it, Marion.
Oh, do you want me? I will read my poem then. Yeah, that's what you're referring to. Can I do that? Okay, so this is really what my experience of her in the land, and also to feel that they are all in me. They are all the same, but on the outside they have different forms. But I will read it out. She always was the land, even before our times. She was formed in our image, lying in the land, swan-shaped goddess, living and breathing, alive through her nature, then her elements, then her people. She always was calling me, from times before times began. She was formed in my heart, pulsing in my body, spirit-born goddess, living and breathing, alive through my nature, then my emotions, then my body. She always was merging from the beginning of time. She was formed, materialized, shaped in our myths, divine, goddess, sovereign, living and breathing, alive through connection, then our experiences, then our lives. She always was carrying me from beyond the veils of time. She forms my reality, taking me in flight, spirit swan and dragon, living and breathing, alive through my presence, then my vision, then my truth. Bridget, Lady of Avalon, she always was. Blessed be.
Blessed be.
So beautiful.
So beautiful, Marion. So beautiful. Wow.
That
it up, really.
That is, I think what I really felt when I wrote this is that, you know, for me, there's the energy that is in the land, in the myths, in me, and there's no separation between them. It's like I walk the land, I am in contact with the elements, I am in contact with myself, with the mythology. I can't pull them apart. They are really one, and I am one in that.
I feel the comment from Lily is absolutely on point with that. She says something on the Facebook live, and she says, my mind keeps going to, does goddess have to have a form? It helps us humans to have a form embodied, but I do feel a desire to only feel her and not be attached to a form. And this ties in perfectly, because I have to agree with Katinka with this. Even from afar, the energy you emanate, Marion, through your work and your poetry now is that of union of many, many different forms that all weave into one, let's say, undivisible energy of her. And that is also what Lily was saying. And I feel it's also what we all feel during Goddess Conference, where we all bring different goddesses and visions, and at the same time we are parading together for this with the same voice, with the same energy. And that is
I think the formless is very important.
Yeah.
And to be able to go into the not being attached, as in stuck on, a particular form, but to be able to expand into far more fluidity, different forms,
And
more
names.
of formulas is very important. But it's also for us very good to have a form, because what is goddess if not a part of us, or an example for us at the same time of something that we are striving to become? I don't mean deified. I mean the qualities of the form of the Lady of Avalon, or any goddess of your heart that calls you, are the qualities already within us that ask to be initiated, developed, matured into, integrated, brought out into the world. That is the priestess path. So form is also important. So it's interesting. For me, this comes back to this picture of the weavers. The weavers, it is many different things.
And the Goddess Conference is such a great place to feel exactly that, and to really hear the call. I remember there was years ago, I was at my first Goddess Conference. I came as a journalist to write about the Goddess Conference. And it was actually, I was standing waiting to be let into the big hall for the evening ceremony. And I was standing next to Lydia Rule, and we started to talk. And she was actually the one who introduced me to Verena. So, so I think the Glastonbury Conference is an amazing place.
Bless Lydia, she's such a trailblazer.
To feel exactly that, and to feel her many faces and her many energies, and to bring that then out to where you live, and to, it's like the spark that gets ignited.
Yeah, also historically, summing this up also to this year theme of the Goddess Conference, the first instances in literature or mythology of Avalon per se, before it got twisted in many ways and then it got rewritten or was made into the Arthurian lore, was to be the Isle of Healing, where, you know, people would be brought for healing. So that bears a really deep connection with this year's theme. And I would love to ask each one of you a closing thought on what this means to keep the story for this year's healing and Avalon as plural in your daily activities and you know, and work as a priestesses. So I will set the table for Marian.
For me, the healing is really about to be able to not get into dogma, and to feel free in my own unique relationship with Goddess.
Caroline.
Oh, sorry, I was jumping in there.
I think for me, particularly at this moment, I'm working with Nematona this year for the conference, and her message has been very much about peace. So about the healing for me is about that finding peace from the turmoil. And in this conversation that we're having, it's that peace, to have that relationship with Goddess in whichever form she is showing herself to you at that particular moment. Yeah.
Alice, Stephanie.
For me, I'm working with Sulis in the south as the goddess of the waters, of the healing waters. And for me, she holds that place of compassion. And so the way I've been working with her is really learning how to be compassionate with myself in all kinds of different fields of my life, and to learn how to flow with that, and not to beat myself up about stuff, but just really learn how to be completely compassionate with myself. Yeah.
Katinka.
No, other way.
Yes, for me, I am devoted to various forms of Goddess, because as seeker and as devotee, I have particular resonances that echo in her, or she has called me in different ways, which sounds very grand, but you know, it is this what Amanda was speaking into earlier, the following of an intuition, the following of a soul calling. So for me, the answer of your question here in Avalon is that it's very important, if you are devoted to a particular form of Goddess, to stay open to her many other forms. the moment we go into dogmatic monotheistic ways of being with Goddess, it creates such division. And so for me in the conference, the question when somebody says, my Goddess of healing is so-and-so, would be to, oh, how amazing, tell me more. Rather than, well, mine is whatever it happens to be, you know.
Yeah.
So I think that is something as the intention of our hearts that we're really, really holding to here in the Goddess Conference in Avalon, to be open, to explore and to welcome. It doesn't mean we have to agree, but yeah, that's my answer to your question.
Beautiful.
Amanda.
I'm not sure I've understood the question, but this is my answer. I think
Yeah, go for it, darling.
I want to love her more. And to love her more, I have to heal more. And so she guides me in my healing journey so that I can love her more. And that may come in many, many different ways, that she may present herself or present to me that I need to work with so I can love her more and open to her more.
Wow.
Beautiful.
That is perfect and beautiful. Amanda, what an addition to this panel. My goodness. Thank you, Amanda, for being here today. We have loved having you here. Really, really. So whatever form the goddess of the Lady of Avalon has for you, they are all welcome to this year conference for the Lady of Healing. So sorry, for the Goddess of Healing. So again, I think we kind of answered the question today. So what to do to keep it diverse? To keep it diverse is bring your own stories to the table, build trainings where people do get tools and then can develop their own vision, and they can enrich the story, the mythology, and create a wider community, a diverse community with peace. Again, Caroline, that was really beautiful. And remembering that we are all seekers, as Amanda introduced us today. This is very beautiful. And you're asking me, where can I bring that vision of Goddess I have in my heart? Exactly here. Join us this year for the 29th Glastonbury Goddess Conference, a joyful gathering of goddess-loving people, a 6 days in-person event in Glastonbury, Avalon, running from Tuesday 30th July to Sunday 4th August 2024, with the fringe events starting from Sunday 28th July. This year the theme is the Goddess of Healing. It's our maiden year, the first year of a new 5-year cycle. International presenters, transformative workshops and experiences, deep ceremonies on the sacred land of Avalon, community, art, fun, and love for Goddess. Let your healing journey begin this year. Join us for the Glastonbury Goddess Conference, Goddess of Healing. So let your healing journey begin, and please join us on goddessconference.com and buy your ticket, get your ticket. The event is now really, really close, so it's the time to book your accommodation in Glastonbury and book your ticket. Please do. I want to say thank you to the beautiful panel we had here today. Fantastic. Amanda Baker with us.
Hi everyone, see you at conference.
Katinka.
Bye, darlings.
Stephanie, Alison Schudel.
Bye-bye.
Caroline Stevens.
Bye.
And Mary Brigantia.
Blessed to be.
From all of us, the Goddess Conference team, a big hi. Bye.
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 This is the Round Table, a talk show brought to you by the Glastonbury Goddess Conference. In this circle, the priestesses of the ceremonial circle, the weavers of our annual gathering, talk about pivotal topics about our community, spirituality, and Goddess.